For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
This is a hardcore grind interview with the fabulous international film and media composer, music producer, and songwriter, Rob Diggy Morrison. Welcome.
Hey, Lissha, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's so great to have you on today. Now, you've worked for the esteemed music producer from Detroit, Vassell Benford. What did that experience teach you about yourself and the music industry?
Well, it's funny you mentioned him first, and that's cool. Shout out to, and we, he likes to be called Vassell. So some people might say Vassell or Vassell. So what happens is with that, and I almost forgot he was from Detroit, and he told me that early on. That experience working with him was magical, and it taught me a lot about patience. It taught me a lot about being prepared. And discipline and things like that. And if you make a mistake, you correct it and you move it on, And I was floored because he brought me in. He had a big project, and this is like 2011, 12, that he had a project called the Swan Princess Christmas, and but it was online. They had his wife at the time, Pam, was on, and I reached out to her because we were already Facebook friends. I wasn't friends with him, and I reached out and I said, "Oh, this guy is a music producer." And it was so funny because I acknowledged him once we got to know each other. I was like, I used to see his name all the time on music credits, and I actually hated on him. I actually hated on V because I'm like, who? And I'm going to tell you why. And it was logical. It was what it was, Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. I knew that name. I knew of Teddy Riley. Anybody that was synonymous with the big records, I knew because if they worked with any of these artists on, like, say, for instance, a Whitney Houston album or any other album, Keith Sweat or whatever, I knew the names. But I kept seeing Vassell, and I'm like, who is this dude? Why is he always popping up? And so, and I think I mentioned that to him, out of love and everything. But I reached out to his wife, and I told her I was a composer and I was doing some things. And so she says, well, I'm not the person to talk to. She says, you need to reach out to his assistant. And I reached out to his assistant. Cassius Weathersby is his name. And Cassius had done a lot in the business as well, Step It Up, all those dance movies and stuff with Marion. And so I reached out to him, and I sent him a quick note and told him what I was doing. And he says, well, I'll forward this over to Vassell. He said, but send me over some information like your history, your songs and things like that, your bio. I sent it over, and they responded back. I was floored. I'm like, wow, they're going to do a major movie, and he wants me to respond back. Yes, I'm on it. And so I sent the information over, and they responded back. Then Cassius says, well, in a few days, because I never spoke to Vassell for a long time. He says, in a few days, we're going to send you over some things, and we're going to see how well you knock it out. Well, at this point now, I need to talk to Vassell. So he says to me that we're doing a movie for Sony, and we an animation. Now, mind you, I had never really done animation before. I had done some greeting cards, but I had never tackled a full film of animation. And so, basically, he sends this clip. He describes what he wants. He says to me, "This is Tears from the Sun." It was a John Williams, he's a composer. It was Tears from the Sun or something like that. It was a movie, and he wanted me to mock up that area. And I didn't know that he was going to actually use it. But what happens is, when I sent the mock-up over, it was better than he thought that he, wished for. And he was like, wow. He says, hey, man, I get a call back from Cassius, and Cassius was like, hey, man, you got the job. I was like, what? He said, you got the job. I'm like, no way. I remember I was in the front, watching television when he called. And from there, it was like, yo, we're going to get back with you in a few days. Be ready, And so that clip actually is that the song I did was so phenomenal. He wound up adding, I think, a small orchestra on the bottom of that. And it was in the film of The Swan Princess, but it came almost near the end of the film when the prince, he almost died, and they had to bring him back to life, and this song played. And it was somebody singing it, too. And I was floored. Every time I hear it, like, oh, my God, I remember what I was doing when I wrote that. So that just goes to show you how, you can execute projects, on cue when somebody says, hey, we need you to do this. And I worked on a couple more things with Vasal, but my relationship with him is still solid, because I want to keep a good rapport. Now he got on me a couple times. He said, hey, man, we got work to do. You can't be sleeping on the job. but overall, you have to be ready. And he taught me a lot about that, the discipline part of it, of being and staying ready, because you just never know when you're going to get a phone call. Heck, I'm actually waiting on Brian Tyler to call me, or one of his assistants. Brian Tyler does all the Fast, Furious films and Transformers stuff. He does a lot of that stuff, and I'm waiting on him to, hit the phone because I'm ready.
Yes. Now you've worked with such amazing artists. You've worked with Beyonce, CeCe Peniston, Maya, Martha Wash. What was your most memorable session?
Let me see. The people you named. And I'll tell you the Martha Wash story. It wasn't really, I'll tell you about that, but let me see. Anytime I'm in the studio, I'll mention somebody that you didn't mention, and that was Michael Jackson. I didn't meet Michael, but Sony sent over his vocals, his acapellas, and we were in the studio, and it felt like, and being in front of a booth with no singer, but you could hear vocals, felt like Michael was right in front of me, like in the booth, and you could hear his foot taps, you can hear his finger snapping, you can hear him sometimes, rubbing his clothes rubbing against, and everything like that. That's what it felt magical, all the breaths and things like that. It felt surreal, and it was a nice moment, So that, I would say, for me, was magical, because I called my mother. I was like, Mom, I said, Michael Jackson isn't here, but I said, if you could only hear, through these speakers, because I think we had like Genelecs at the time, you could hear all that movement and the breath marks, and then when Biggie came on, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, you got to be joking. And that song was called This Time Around. Biggie and Michael did a record together, and it was really something that was just brushed under the table. That's when he was going through the accusations and things like that, and he wanted to put out a song. And I think the original artist, I believe it could have been Rodney Jerkins. I'm not for sure. But we wound up doing the remix. And like I say, getting those vocals and hearing all those inflections and vocal inflections and things like that, I just felt like, wow. This is something else. I really enjoyed myself with that session, and I can sometimes it's online, but I find it and I play it just to remember what it was like to be doing that type of session. As far as Martha Wash, I did a session with a remix producer by the name of Bad Boy Bill, and Bill brought me into the studio. Martha, of course, wasn't there, but we finished. Of course, he paid me, and I was at that back in the I think it was late '90s. I would get a lot of calls to do session work for a lot of the remix producers because they only, they did their thing, and I was the assassin to come in and clean it up, so to speak. So went out to Suburb or whatever, Bill's studio, and I laid it out for him. But then about a year later, I was on my way to Amsterdam, and my partner and I, Mike Dunn, credit to Mike Dunn for having me tag along a lot on a lot of the trips overseas. Was in a mute, and at that time, people were using vinyl. A lot of vinyl was being used, so he needed to get some newer records for his show, which was took that night. And so he said, I'm gonna stop in the store. So we stopped in the store, and he's thumbing through these records. He comes across the Martha Wash record, Catch the Light. He said, Rob, he go, your name. I was like, what? Because I didn't know it had happened back in the States, And for me to see my name, back that time I didn't have a camera phone, and they were out, but they weren't as good as they are now. And I was like, wow. I said, I'm all the way in Amsterdam. I said, I'm moving up in the world, Sure, I'm international for real, So, yeah, I feel really, really good about that one.
I love it. Now, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was done.
Now I was going to ask, who's been your biggest support system throughout your journey?
My biggest support system, I put God first, of course,
Yes, right.
And that's my energy. That's like my energy pill that Underdog would take when he was feeling a little down. God has been that for me, but alongside that, my biggest cheerleader is my mom. She has really been that support system for me, she's always been my supporter because even when I was a kid, she would call me her little Burt Bacharach, and I knew who Burt was when I was 11, 12 years old. When he was playing for Dion and things like that. So. And then at that time, a lot of TV shows came on when they were highlighting the producer, the writer, songwriter, piano player, and Dion would be on TV singing, and he would be playing, and she would call me because I was writing little songs and trying to write at that time, but I wasn't really good at writing, putting stories together. I can tell you I love you all day, but on paper I have a problem, formulating. So. She said, no, still, you my little Burt Bacharach. So by that, as I grew, into what I'm doing, she continued to support me. But she'd always say, I know your sound. I can identify your sound. And now she can't, with the technology, the ways you can produce records and things, she can't. And I've gotten so skilled as a piano player and a guitar player, it's hard for her to figure out if it's me or not. She used to, because I was one-sided, right, one style. And as I grew older and grew into music, then I had different variations of styles and things like that,
Absolutely. Now, how does your creativity flow?
Naturally, I can say that. If I'm in a zone of working, and I feel the inspirations, like say for instance for a movie, I can watch the film or flow with it. Because a lot of times I don't watch and then go back and score. I used to do that. I could go back. I go straight through it. So I don't know. I'm just like the viewing audience. I don't know what's coming next. So the inspiration will come as I'm working. And that gives me an opportunity now to.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
To play guesswork, like what sound would I use next? I've been a big fan of sound, so that's inspiring in its own right to be able to have all these many sound, programs in front of you, and it could be somebody walking across the street or whatever, but you want to use the best sound that attracts that ear to get that ear attention, So that was pretty much where I am with that in terms of my flow,
I love it though. I always love to be able to experience someone's passion for the things that they enjoy doing, their skills, their gifts. So when you see them working or you see them in that zone, that is the best experience that you can have with anybody that has a passion or a gift. So I'm glad that you were able to share that with me. Now, there's a high cost in pursuing your vision. What advice would you give up-and-coming musicians?
Higher costs with musicians and paying the price is dedication. That's number one. Persistence, prayer, patience. You have to have a bunch of things in place beforehand, before you even touch your instrument, per se, And you have to continue to believe in your success. If you don't, then I think it's spinning your wheels. I've preached so many times about, and I'm not looking at, I'm not that high up where I can't be told anything. But if I see where you're struggling, I'm going to say, hey, look, you should try this because this can work. I know, because sometimes you can see potential in people when they don't see it in themselves. So I try to, if I get emails from people, I say, hey, look, you should try this. This email just came through. Maybe you could use it. And a lot of times that just goes unnoticed. But to the aspiring artists, right now the internet is their best friend. A lot of people say, oh, well, now I know artists, I've run across artists that will say, well, I don't use the internet that much sometimes. But how do you plan to become successful when you don't even use the web, Heck, I was happy to get $49 off of YouTube. I'm like, oh, I got a check, I've had some nice royalty checks. Don't get me wrong, but to see that royalty come through, I was like, wow, I've been hustling. So I tell people all the time, you have to continue to, post your content, even if you get one view a day. Continue to post. Somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to see your good works. Communication is key. That's factoring in when you have to be able to speak well, to write well. Nowadays you don't really have to necessarily go to your email. You're supposed to, but if you know that you can go inside somebody's DM really quick and be like, hey, I do this, whatever, then they're hopefully they'll respond, but you have to use all the angles. So if you DM them, wait a couple of days and then send them a professional email, magazine covers, anything that even like, say, for instance, we're doing this magazine. I'm quite sure if someone called you and they were inspiring, say, well, look, can you just do, a shout out to me in your magazine? It doesn't hurt to ask.
That's right.
Say, oh yeah, I got a little, I got 20 lines. You want to get these lines in there? Cool. And you just have to ask. But people won't take the chance. They won't. Sometimes they're afraid to step out. Let me tell you a quick story about faith and stepping out. I said to myself that I wanted to do bigger films. I said I'm going to do bigger films. I just don't know when it's coming. But I said it's coming. So it turns out that Steve Harvey did a thing called Jump. He was on Family Feud set. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but he was on the Family Feud set. He was talking about jumping.
Yes, I did see it. Mm-hmm.
Right. It was very popular, And so I watched that video with a little tear in my eye. I said, wow. I said, I got to do the same thing. I can't be afraid to, sit here and not do anything about my situation. I have to get up and I have to do something. So after watching that video, I was contacted by a team of people in Dubai that actually to come over and work on their film. I was like, this is it. This is the jump moment. This is the jump moment. And I got that opportunity because of IMDb. My credentials are there. So on IMDb, you can see what I've been doing. You can see that I've been constantly working. I'm a big fan of dates. So on IMDb, you get all these different dates. Like, okay, well, he did this movie in 220. This in 20. And so they kind of like in chronological order to they get, your last film that you've done, So, I kind of look at those. And so I guess they saw, in 17, or a little bit before 2017, where they saw that I had been working constantly, and that time came up. So around 2017, I saw that Jump video, and that's when they called me and asked me, hey, we're working on something. Would you like to be a part? I'm like, sure. They didn't know me from Adam, but we forged a friendship. We Skyped a lot. And like I said before 17, we talked about a year just going over details about the film, what they thought, what their vision was and things like that. So I think aspiring people have to knock down walls. You have to continue to talk with people. You have to share your information. Don't be afraid to post that you are, a songwriter, producer, arranger, or whatever it is, filmmaker, secretary, whatever. Don't be afraid to post what you do and you're seeking out more work. I just put a post on Facebook the other day saying, tag a teacher. If you know a teacher that's looking for original theme music for the classroom, hit me up. A lot of people thought it was cool, but nobody hit me up. But guess what? That doesn't stop me. I'm going to keep working.
Right.
I'm going to keep working, so, but you have to continue to brand yourself. It's personal branding, and it's free. Branding is free now, so a lot of aspiring people, they have a certain way in their heads that, oh, I can do it this way and become famous. Nope. You have to continue to bust a move.
Right.
You have to continue to bust those moves to the point where people are now noticing you. I don't post every day on Instagram, but I'm normally in somebody's DM saying, hey, I'm a composer, film composer, television and film composer. I do this. I can do this. I can do this. I would love to be a part of your team. My letter writing is pretty cool, so I lay them out really nice, and that's what I do. So, it's not so much as just being, you want to be in the limelight. There are other things you can do. So while you're waiting on your turn to get before you step up, there are a lot of things you can do. As a songwriter, producer, and arranger, I have my own setup here. So what I do is I can do voiceovers. I can do audio engineering where I can take, like say your voice or this particular interview, and if I need to cut, paste, or whatever, I can enhance it or whatever, master it. So there are different things that aspiring people can do while they're waiting on their opportunity. So you just don't sit around and wait. But you do other things to prepare yourself. You do all things to prepare yourself. Read the Bible if need be, but do some things that are going to prepare you for that moment, because you just never know when the phone is going to ring. I always say this: when the phone rings, when you get your text, you get an email, a DM, you just never know when it's going to happen. True story. In 2017, I was leaving to go to Dubai. I was walking out the door, had my bags in my hand. The phone rings. It was a guy named Ray Williams, and I didn't know him, and he was like, "Hey, I got your number from blah." Says I wanted to know if you were interested in doing some demonstration work, on keyboards for me. I need a guy at a conference or whatever. I'm like, "Oh, Ray," I said, "I can't do it." I said, "I'm on my way to Dubai, and I'm going to be gone, for a couple months or whatever like that." So I said, "I can recommend you somebody, And pretty much that was the end of that conversation. But I kept his number. I found him on Facebook. We became Facebook friends. And years later, he remembered me, and now I'm the head guy for his company in Toronto called EMSA. That's International Music Software Technology, I believe that's what it is, something like that. Music Merchants Technology, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I wound up working. They're gonna kill me if he hears this interview, but I wound up working for them, and I just sent an invoice out this morning to the company. So I do like a lot of the background music for the interviews. They're developers, so like the equipment that you're using, somebody could have developed it. Then Ray interviews those people that make the equipment, and then I put music under the interview, and that's pretty much it. So he remembered me, and then we got a chance to meet in Dubai last year this time. We were having breakfast at a hotel last year this time in Dubai, and yeah.
That's dope. That is dope. And see, you never know. You never know. Now, you're described as a sixth man of music, and you've recently sealed the position as the composer for the hit BET series Carl Weber's The Family Business. How did this opportunity present itself to you?
Oh, wow. Once again, I just said it. I said, you sit around here, and I was done with work, I think, that particular day, and I was at the computer, and the phone rang. I believe, and I just keep forgetting, I believe it was an 818 number, and I'm always a big fan of 818s and 213s. I feel like those numbers are royal. I feel like sometimes those numbers are the gateway, per se, to getting, work. Because I say that because a lot of Hollywood people have that area code, 213-818, and it could be some others, but the main ones for me are that. So I'm sitting around, and the phone rings, and it was from my Google number. I have a Google number, and my number was attached to my Instagram, and the phone rings, and I was like, okay, somebody's calling. I said, it's money. I always say when that comes up, it's money.
That's right.
I always say it. I already know when somebody's calling me from those area codes. I'm like, this is an opportunity. In other words, and so person, I guess, felt that it wasn't the right number. I said, I'm not letting this get away. No, not this 818 or whatever it was, 213, whatever it was. I said, this is not getting away. So I immediately called the number back on my regular, number. My regular phone number. So I said, hey, somebody just called for Rob. He says, hey, how you doing? This is Trey Haley from Tridestin Pictures. He says, Tridestin Studios. He says, we produce a series of Family Business. And I was like, in my head, So I said, this could be interesting. This conversation is going to get real interesting. So he says to me, are you busy? That's like pretty much the next question, Are you busy? In other words, he wanted to know, was I free enough to work on a series? And I said, no, I'm not busy. And then, you have a couple of projects, but, you just say, no, I'm good. I can handle it, So he wound up going over some details and explaining to me how the process works. and everything. And he said, well, in a few days, we're going to contact you. Somebody's going to contact you like that. We'll call you back, whatever. So I immediately.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I immediately called one of my friends that's on the show. I have a few friends on that show. I said, let me call Carl Gilliard. Shout out to Carl. I said, Carl. I text him first. I said, well, hey, because he was teaching, I said, Carl, did you put my name in the hat for the family business? He says, nah, man. He said, I wish I would have. He said, you've been proud of me for doing that. He said, but I'm sorry, Rob, it wasn't me. I'm like, whoa. So I text my other friend, Trisha Mann.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
Trisha plays Dominique on the show, and I've been knowing Trisha 23 years, And so I said, Trisha, did you reach out to, Trey Haley about the family mission? She was like, nope, wasn't me. So I'm like, well, maybe it was God.
Right.
So winded up, they called me back, and we worked out all the details, of course, and the finances and all that. And we got the ball rolling. I spoke with the showrunner, which is her name is N.D. Brown. I spoke with her, and very, very nice lady. It's just beautiful spirit. And we were talking about Greek, because I'm Greek, honorary Greek at the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Shout out to my school. And I'm a Hall of Famer there as well. We'll get to that if you want. But, yeah, we wound up talking about her being a Delta Sigma Theta. And so I told her that Trisha, was Delta as well.
Yes, she is.
So we just went into this whole thing about the Greek thing. It made it feel comfortable for her. We made ourselves comfortable with one another talking about HBCU. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And that was a family all in itself. So we were able to talk about that for a little bit. Got back to business. Within, I think it was that night. Yeah, that was that night. They sent me a lump sum of money. I do mean a lump sum right away. And I wound up taking a screenshot, and I sent it to my mother. And she just really, I think she just, well, we went back over the story about maybe 3 months ago. But when I sent her the screenshot, and she thought she owed somebody.
She thought it was a bill.
She thought it was a bill. She thought it was a bill. And that was so funny. She was like, oh, my God, I ain't got no money. I said, Mom, that's mine. I said, that's what that. She says, what's this for? I said, it's for the business. She shouted, oh, my God. She hung up the phone. It was hilarious. I'm like, no way. So we laughed about it. She said, Rob, you scared me that time. She said, I thought I had a bill. And but yeah, it was a beautiful thing to start working on the series. The most fun I had was communication. Although it was my craft involved, but it was communication because Trey was hands-on with me. He was very easygoing. Trey was to the point where he was, type of director that didn't, hound you. He made sure that you were comfortable with what you were doing. And if he didn't like something, he would just kindly say, hey, man, finesse the scene. I'm going to take this out right here, but finesse the scene. He wouldn't say, hey, man, take this out. He I guess he had enough going on. Now you got to deal with a composer that's incompetent, So we were able to communicate, and he was able to, point out areas where if I, it not necessarily did anything wrong, but just it was too much music or too less of music. And he said, oh, just add this or take this out. We have to cut it down because I wasn't used to cutting or scoring and then having to add the commercial breaks. The commercial breaks were added, but knowing where to make your hard stops, like being a dun 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 dun, a bumper, and I had to learn all of that type of stuff. So, because when you're doing television, you're gonna get a streaming version, and you're gonna get a web, the streaming, and then streaming, and then your regular internet, So, like say for instance, BET Plus is streaming, but your regular BET is cable. That's my word, cable. So you're gonna get your streaming, and then you're gonna get cable. So a lot of the households have standard cable. A lot of the households don't have the paid subscription, so you have to wait. So my point is, me doing the series set me up to the point where I had to figure out how to lay, or what a hard stops at, or the bumpers or whatever for commercials, and that worked out. But the first episode that Trey sent me over, there were like about four to five notes he had. I'm talking about 43 minutes and 5 notes, And I'm like, are you serious? So I knew that I was doing something right, and I think he felt that I knew what I was doing. So by the time I think the third or fourth episode, probably fourth, I didn't hear from him.
Oh, wow.
Trey stopped calling because he felt in his heart I knew what I was doing. This is a major TV show we're shooting, for Viacom, BET, and he trusted me wholeheartedly to get it done. Now, of course, he did call because he would send me episodes over with music added. It was my own music added, and he would just cut it up and then drop it in the episodes and say, just follow what I just did, what you just did musically, but just follow it, rescore it, and send it back over to me. I'm like, wow. So he already in his head had enough of what I did already, and said, hey, just copy this and send it back. And that was, the reason why I didn't have to work as hard. But once I figured it out, man, I was like, I'm on the roll.
That is so dope. Now,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was saying, but then after that, it was just a matter of just, making sure I was on the right track. That's all.
That's dope. That is dope. Now, African-American artists have pioneered both the music and film industries. How does it feel to be one of the elite, fueling the passions of many others who are watching and admiring you?
That's a good question. I thought about that before the family business came out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had other shows on BET as well, but to do 10 episodes, I said, man, LeBron James might see this. Or Shaq might see this, or 50%, or somebody, I'm thinking about the multitudes and the millions of people that watched this particular show, and how it made me feel really good to know that millions were actually watching the show that I worked on, so proudly now, if I'm in a grocery store and I see folks, I say, hey, you ever seen that show, The Family Business? Like, yeah, that's my show. And then I would proudly say, I was a composer on that. I was the main music guy on that show. What? You did? Like, yeah. And I would do it for shock value because I don't have an ego like that, but I would just do it for to see how people would respond. When's the next season coming out? I'm like, it's on this way, But yeah, that type of feeling was euphoric a lot of times to even think who saw it and what they felt about it. And a lot of people actually called about the music. I got a lot of calls about how well I did, and this particular series. And I don't think I watched the other ones. I didn't hear guitar, like electric guitar. So when I approached Trey with the fact that I'm putting some guitar in this, he was hesitant. because he wasn't for sure of what I meant by that. And if you remember the scene where right after the music track, the soundtrack of the homegoing, there was a screeching guitar rock type sound that was heading when that girl was busting through the gates, and they was about to shoot her. Can't remember her name, but the character's name anyway. But there was this screeching guitar, and I said, man, this gonna work. I said, trust me, I got you, because he thought I was just gonna lay some simple guitar licks and be done with it. No, we had guitar all through the family business, because I figured like if it's that high, grungy, sound, I could get away with it, and I did. And Trey absolutely loved it. It's even in the last scene of the movie, of the junior reveal, and I just use it proudly because, I was told years ago when I was applying for a composer job, the lady said, no, Rob, you didn't get the job. She says, but I need you to focus on integrating other music elements in your style. Just don't stick with one style. Try to cover the bases and use other instruments. And so that's when I started using guitar a lot. I use my own hands with finger snaps. I use my mouth to do the pops. So you have to be creative on the fly in so many ways, so it works. It totally works, so, and then that one lady that was, telling me that I didn't get the job, I wasn't disappointed. I just figured I'd have to work harder. That's all.
Right.
And
Now, your passion for the art of music runs so deep that you are also a teacher of music to children, helping them to elevate their love and their skills with your classes and workshops. What do you want students to take away as far as an experience when they take your class?
I want them to feel motivated, uplifted, and knowing that they can, and I would always tell my kids, you don't have to be a musician, but be whatever you want and be great at it. So, but when it comes back to music, I would always, I've written many children's songs. So my kids are like in their 40s and 50s now, So I had kids come up to me and still singing the songs that we sang when they were in junior high.
Oh, wow.
I got a cousin. She will see me. She was in my class, and she would say, "Cuz, remember that song?" And then she would start singing the song called "Let's Fly High," her and her girlfriend. But they remember that, because we used to do a lot of jingles. Like I had a class curriculum that I kind of like put together myself, and we would do theme songs. Like I would go and research all the television theme songs, and then come back and play them. So, for instance, we would take the Jeffersons, or Good Times, or Fresh Prince, which they love, and we would do these jingles, the theme songs for class. So I had class here. I thought these, the lyrics. You guys read over the lyrics. Get the rhythm in your head, because I know you've heard these songs a million times, and I'm playing the piano behind them. And before long, we got a whole class going boom, 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 boom. But this is the story about how. I'm fired up. They're fired up, and guess what? Now it's 40 minutes past, and it's time for the kids to go. They don't want to leave class.
Right. I love it.
They don't want to leave class because they've been so fired up singing these songs, and then a lot of them, they try to sneak in and try to come back and everything. But those times like that make me really good about being in the classroom, elevating and motivating children and middle school kids and high school as well. So I've had them all. I've K through 12, K through 21.
I love it. That is dope.
To just motivate and inspire, and then I was part time. 3 days a week I was music, 2 days a week I was art. So being an art teacher, now I'm still using my creativity. So I'm going to the creative use warehouse and picking up bags junk, for art. Styrofoam pieces, string, whatever it was, pill bottle tops or whatever it was, And I would bring the stuff back, approved by the principal, of course, and we would make things. We would make decorations, shakers out of tissue holder rolls, things like that. Put a little rice or something. I'll bring some rice or some beans from home, and they absolutely loved that. That's what kept me going. That's what kept them going. And as they're doing all this, I'm encouraging them, but I'm also saying stay in school. You can become someone. So I think that helped a lot. And I see some of my kids today. I haven't seen a lot of them, but every now and then I'll see a few, and they'll say one thing: thank you, Mr. Morrison, for me being in your class. If it wasn't for you, I would have dropped out of school. I've heard kids talk to me like that and approach me in that manner. I'll see them, in different elements, working at, say, restaurants, Walmarts. Hey, you was my teacher in third grade. So I would get that so much that, I would see them and they would just be so happy. And I said, what you doing now? Oh, I'm working for ComEd, or ComEd Energy Company here in Chicago, or whatever it was they were doing was positive. The ones that I met, And this one cat I saw here recently over the summer, probably back in April, in the spring rather. He was working at a Potbelly restaurant. I don't know if you heard of Potbelly. It's like a submarine place. And I said, man, I know you. I said, you know me? He said, yeah, I think you was my teacher. I said, what school you in now? He said, I'm in Notre Dame. I'm like, oh my God, thanks. I said, that's all good, brother. Fighting Irish. So you just never know, how you inspire, and even if doing art or music or whatever, mostly art, if something wasn't right, with a kid, with a project or whatever, and you get a little second grader crying because, she's saying her project isn't pretty, and then I'd have to step in and say, no, this is, because I like art, pure abstract art. I love abstract art. So if something wasn't right, and if they felt it wasn't right, or the kid or whatever, then it's my job to encourage and uplift, to say, oh, this is dope. This is great, kids. Isn't this wonderful? Hold the picture up. Yes. So you have to keep them motivated and encourage them, inspire them, and get them back to work. And but yeah, those type of moments for me were super precious. I mean, like, wow, like I really enjoyed. Those are the times, in other words, that I love being in school and in classrooms and teaching and motivating and things like that. And what we call the word enriching, and being enriching the kids,
I love it. Now, it's obvious God is ordering your steps. Do you feel, though, that there's any struggle with being a Christian in Hollywood?
Yeah, I'll say yeah, because I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about movies. Certain movies people won't watch because they send the wrong signal or the wrong message. Like, for instance, I think we mentioned the movie was The Exorcist. Would I watch The Exorcist? Probably. Does it affect me psychologically? No. Because I have probably a reason for watching it, and that's the music. So I'm not going to get too wrapped up in the whole demonic spirit. When I go to bed at night, my brain, I'm free and clear. My soul is free and clear. I don't have nightmares about what I just saw on television. So I think a lot of times people have gotten the wrong misconception of how we perceive content. So, yeah, but then you look at what has happened to a lot of the Hollywood stars, drugs, a lot of them go to church. A lot of them, you see Sunday mornings out there, a lot of the big churches out there, so Bishop Blake had a lot of celebrities at his church. But during the week, these people got to go back to work, like Sam Jackson. My pastor mentioned it yesterday about Sam Jackson cursing so much, Well, that's his job. Does he walk around daily, cursing? Probably so. Or maybe, I'm sure his intelligence level is super high. But as a Christian, we carry ourselves in a manner that's supposed to be, this quote, across the board, not necessarily angelic. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and so the whole perception of watching content and being a Christian or being a Christian person and creating content, sometimes you have to walk the line and say, do I want to do this? Is this of God? Is this the right thing to do? Don't get me wrong, and I've been in some situations like that. Then I think about the money, so that's a big factor right there, the money. So the question you asked, the temptation sometimes can be, unbearable. You be like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out, because I need the money, And I'm sure right now, and I'm just going on the limb, I'm sure some people out there in LA right now, or wherever, that's doing some strange things for some change.
Right.
Still being Christian, but then saying, hey, God, I know, this isn't right. I'm a Christian person, but I'm struggling right now. Please forgive me, but I need to do this to, keep my house. I'm just using a small example of what could be happening, or possibly, you never know. So, that's something else. So you have to decide what you want to take on as a Christian person. Now, I'll tell you, I do a lot of Christian films, a lot. I've probably done 8 or 9 in the last 4 years.
Oh wow!
But they're edgy Christian films, edgy. So they're shooting, they're snorting coke, and my partner, business partner, Quincy Trent, shout out to him. He's a great filmmaker, but he makes content with the message to relay over to these young people. He just did a film called Weapons of Warfare, which it was straight drug deals going down, folks driving through the alley real fast, or whatever it was. But I think somebody got shot in the film. But my point is, he makes these films to convey, hey, get your life in order. God coming back. And then referencing scriptures in the film. But the music is edgy. I make sure that when I'm scoring his films, he wants an edgy feel because it's dramatic. So I get to use a lot of sounds that are edgy and dramatic. So to make his films pop or whatever. So and we work well together as partners and everything. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I just think he's going to be a bigger filmmaker later on because he has the right roadmap, and the right blueprint to be able to make those type of Christian films that are reaching the unfortunate people and the people that need it, the people that need to see these films, our youngsters, So yeah, it'll be out pretty soon. And I was a associate producer on that as well, along with the
nice.
Sport. Yeah, so. So my game plan is changing in terms of my status.
Absolutely. Now you've done music almost all over the world. What's next?
What's next for Rob Diggy? I am actually I'm getting ready to go back to Dubai on Saturday. I leave Saturday, and by the time this interview comes out, I would have been back and heard this interview and been like, hey, I remember that. But I'm going over there to talk, to discuss master class involvement with teachings with some of the students at a school called SAE, Sound Audio School for, it's not necessarily film, but they do a lot of engineering, sound, audio, and engineering school, where they do a lot of mixing and mastering and showing the kids how to, get their sounds in order. So I come in as a film composer, and I talk about my element and how sound, audio, and engineering, incorporates what I do, meshes in with what I do. So they've had me there before, and I've spoken. So I'm going back. I'm actually just going back on a whim, and I think I may just ask, could I do it, just to, for me to do something while I'm there. It's not necessarily about the pay. They did offer me some pay. Wasn't a lot, but it was just something, just a little love token to say, hey man, thank you for coming in. So if that still stands, then and if their schedule allows and permits, I'll do it. I have no problem sticking around and doing it. And the other reason why I'm there is because I'm going to be doing a lot of playing with a lot of the local cats that play music, and a lot of them have things going on where they're doing, music production and things like that. So I want to pick their brains and find out how I could fit into their program. Although I'm here, I've already been corresponding with a guy over there to do music. His name is Junior Brown, and he's Filipino. So I've been working with him through the internet by sending him songs. He says, man, I love these tracks. So he's on it. So when I get there, I'll hang out with him and we'll discuss opportunities to see how and where those tracks can go, or how they can be placed. Or I can put them out. Once he does his work, he can send it back to me. We can put it out. I have a distribution label, DistroKid. A lot of people use that. And we'll put it out, And he can promote it. I can promote it. So sky's the limits. And it doesn't take a lot of work now, and a little money. And you go on doing your thing,
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. We thank you so much for sharing your time, your space, and your energy with me. I want you to shout out all of your social media where anybody can contact you.
Yeah, that's under Rob Diggy. That's Instagram, Rob Diggy, Facebook. I keep it simple, But I want to shout out my high school band director. I have to, Delano O'Banion, who walked me through this process early on. I was 14 years old, no direction. I didn't know. I just knew that something was. I guess music chose me. I didn't choose music because I didn't want to be where I was at the high school. So he took me under his wings, and I joined the beginners band, playing trombone, and pretty much my steps were ordered to continue on being a musician. So from there, it was University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, where I got a 4-year scholarship, then became a Hall of Famer at that same school, and in the area of film, media, and entertainment. And so I just think, like I said, music chose me, but the sky's the limits. But you have to be continuous, I said earlier, persistent, patient, and prayerful. But for people to reach out, yes, definitely. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, us all under Rob Diggy. So I keep it simple,
That's that consistent branding. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I really enjoyed your time. I really enjoyed you.
I so appreciate you, and we will, we're going to have you back again.
Yes, because I'm gearing up for season 5 of the family business. So, put it this way. When the strike is over and then they've shot, and it's going to get cold soon, so they may delay it until the spring. I'm not for sure, and we don't know how long the strike is going to be. So once it gets going, I'm part of 5 and we can get going.
I love it. I love it.
Purchase new wiper blades from O'Reilly Auto Parts today and we'll install them for free. See better and drive safer with O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.